In this class, I have used my ethnographies to visit the nearby Santa Cruz Mission National Park. This park features the only remaining building from the mission built back in 1791. Eventually, in 1850s, when the memorial was shut down, people still inhabited the building. This continued on until the late 20th century when the last person inhabiting it donated it to the state. And now it serves as a museum and a memorial to the lives of the natives and the Spanish who used to live there. When I first got to the nearby plaza, I realized that there are actually several memorials for the mission. There was a Catholic church, there was the reconstruction of an adobe building, the nearby park, and any of the bells in Santa Cruz. I chose this memorial because it was a museum. This means that it might attract a lot of people, such as visitors or anyone who lives nearby. When I first entered the memorial, there were two things that caught notice for me: the nearby gift shop and, of course, the old building. When I entered the building, I saw that the museum had many captions about how the inhabitants were when they lived there and what they did. It talks about also how the inhabitants helped build Mission Santa Cruz. Like in this one excerpt where it talked about the Indians helping the mission grow all their corn, wheat crops and help them plow fields and haul water. It also mentions any subsequent tenants and shows a history of who lived here. My first impression of the memorial was that it was very isolated and it was trying to be isolated. I have found no indications of this memorial's existence near the main street, and the only thing that reminded people of it was a blackboard near the Catholic elementary church. However, in my first 2 times to the memorial, I was also much more passive when engaging with the place. I will act like one of the visitors and not make eye contact or ask questions to any one of the visitors or the employees. This will change in my third ethnographic visit when I decided to ask questions to the employee present. I first asked her about what she thought about the visibility of the memorial. She said that it was unfortunate that the building remaining was in a bad location and that many people couldn't find it. However, she also said that there are many ways in which they're trying to attract visitors over. There is an entrance outside by the Main Street Mission. On top of that, there are 2 street signs that tell people they are nearing the national park while driving along the mission. Even if people do miss this, they still host a variety of events for anyone present. For example, every Thursday, they host something called a Juniors Rangers. In this program, targeted to people aged 7 to 12, they have activities that teach these kids about the history of the lifestyles the Indians had present through more hands-on approach. For example, in the picture, you will see that they have events such as learning about what kind of clothes they wore, learning about what kind of foods they had, and practicing some of their weapons. They also hosted more family-friendly events that taught people about the history of the natives, such as candle dipping or making tortillas in outdoor picnics. But the overall message of this memorial was clear. The memorial was trying to teach people about the history of the people who lived in the mission. She also said that the nearby Catholic church, the reconstruction, and the national park were all owned by separate entities. This means that the national park does not hold any religious agenda and therefore is just trying to teach people about the history. The actions that this memorial takes shows that it is actively trying to engage the community with the history of the native Indians. However, the memorial still holds its own agenda, as it only tells half the story behind the Indians. It does not tell about the violent actions that the Spanish inflicted upon the Indians. It only talks about how most of the Indians died in Santa Cruz from diseases. In fact, it also portrays the Indians as enemies of the mission, where, for example, in this excerpt, it says that the Yokuts and Miwoks regularly cross over past the Diablo Range to raid the missions and steal their horses. This proves to potentially have a lot of controversy, as in recent years there have been lots of statues and memorials removed because of Native discrimination. For example, we read in class that on March 7th of 2018, a Native American memorial statue in San Francisco was removed because of the discrimination it had. Also recently this year, the bell in UC Santa Cruz was removed because of the discrimination it showed. This memorial is very similar to the Cerny tank we read about in class. This tank was made in Czechoslovakia when the Soviet Union conquered the Czechs. After the Soviet Union left, the tank served as a symbol of oppression, and many people did not want it there. This is similar to the mission, as the mission was built in many ways when there was different power. And once the mission left, the mission stood as a symbol of oppression towards Native Americans. Overall, however, I still found this memorial to be a positive experience. It tried to spread the culture of the Indians and their history, and tried to teach many people in a more proactive way. However, I still wish that they had more about the oppression that the Indians held, and tried to, in some ways, reconcile with the Indians. This is something I like to do in the future, but to do more ethnographies on this place. I would like to figure out, like we said in class, how to place an existing memorial nearby, or how to modify the memorial to provide a different message.